dear learners, welcome to week 4 of our course Child Growth and Development, and it's lecture 16, meaning, definition, basic nature and functions of language. We will be discussing meaning of language, different definitions of language, nature and characteristic of language, structure and components of language, what is the significance and importance of language for the child, and what are different functions of language. Finally, there are certain references and web links for your further studies. Man is man through language alone, said Humboldt. Have you ever wondered why humans are different from other species? Is it due to complex reasoning capacity of the brain, or it's because of the use of language? Many experts now agree that what truly sets us apart from other species of animals is our ability to use an extremely rich set of symbols plus rules for combining them to communicate information. What does this mean? Does this mean that members of other species do not communicate with one another? No, it is not true. They do communicate. You must have seen monkeys and birds. They communicate when some danger is there. They communicate regarding food. However, not in the manner as human beings does. Other members of the animal kingdom have the ability to communicate through vocal noises or by other means, but the most important single feature characterizing human language, that is every individual language against every known mode of animal communication, is its infinite productivity and creativity. The human ability to use language far exceeds that of any other organism on earth. As Bhartrihari, an Indian thinker, observed, everything is cognized through language. Indeed, it changes the world of experience in critical ways. One important thing to be noted here is communication involves both speech and language. Speech is the verbal means of communication, and language, it is using shared rules to put words together to express your thoughts and feelings. Language is a system for combining symbols such as words, so that an infinite number of meaningful statements can be made for the purpose of communicating with others. It allows people not only to communicate with one another, but also to represent their own internal mental activities. In other words, we can say language is a very important part of how people think. Now let's see some definitions of language. Many definitions of language have been proposed. The word language has been derived from the Latin word lingua, which means tongue. So anything which can be expressed by the help of tongue is called as language. Henry Sweet, English phonetician and language scholar, defined language as it is the expression of ideas by means of speech sounds combined into words. Words are combined into sentences. This combination, answering to that of ideas into Bernard Bloch and George L. Traeger, defined language as a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. Fromkin and Rodman defined language as a system by which sounds and meanings are related. E. Sapir defined it as a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of voluntarily produced symbols. G. Traeger, a language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which the members of a society interact in terms of their total culture. Noam Chomsky defined it as a set of finite or infinite of sentences, each finite in length and constructed of a finite set of elements. R.A. Hall described it as the institution whereby humans communicate and interact with each other by means of habitually used oral, auditory, arbitrary symbols. Webster's Third New International Dictionary, Volume 2, 1971, defined language as audible, articulate, meaningful sounds as produced by the action of the vocal organs. Brown, language is the most sophisticated and versatile means available to human beings for the communication of meaning. Atkinson defined it as patterned system of arbitrary sound signals characterized by structure dependence, creativity, displacement, duality, and cultural transmission. Now, after doing definitions, let's see what is the nature and characteristic of language. Language is a means of communication. Language is taken as a means of communication, that is, expression of feelings, thoughts, emotions, and sentiment. It is by the help of it human beings communicate with each other. Without it, the communication process will be blocked and we cannot think about a society without language. So, society depends upon the wise communication of people through language. From birth to death, human beings communicate with each other by taking the help of language. Language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols. In a language, we cannot rigidly make the relation between the sound of the word and the meaning behind. It is arbitrarily accepted by some community and hence treated as a language. For example, a man is called man. We have not named it so on the basis of some logic or scientific principles. Learning language is learning or learn. Learning of a language is not an automatic process. No doubt it is behavior, but behavior is acquired by making efforts. It is not a type of behavior like walking, crawling, which come to the child in a natural way. It is specific type of behavior for which we have to make efforts. Language is a system. Language is a unique system like human body system, just as the body function through different organs such as heart, lungs, brain, etc. In the same way, language functions through sounds, words, and structures. Language is a system of systems. Language is undoubtedly a system. That system further involves other complex systems like a system of organizing sounds, phonology, a system of making words, morphology, a system of arranging words, syntactic structure, a system of visual symbols, that is graphic structure. Language is a system of symbols. Different words used in a language are the symbols. They stand for a certain thing. The language will function well if it is a symbol or noun both of the speaker and the person for whom they being used. Symbol of language are vocal. Different symbols used in a language are vocal. These are other kinds of symbols which cannot be called as vocal. For example, gestures, signal flags are visual symbols. Beating a drum, ringing of bells, auditory symbols, they do not form language. In language, the sounds are produced through vocal organs. Language is unique. Each language is unique because it has its own style of functioning. The sound, vocabulary, and structure of every language have their own speciality. Language is skill subject. Language should be learnt like a skill. There is need of a lot of repetition in speaking, reading, or writing of the language. Language is related to culture. Language is a product of the society. Every language has its deep concern with the culture of the people to which the language belongs. Language develops in a cultural context and therefore meets the needs of the society in which it develops. For example, African language has 120 separate words for walking because in that society walking is the only means of moving from one place to another. Language is dynamic, it is ever changing. Every language undergoes a change with the passage of time. Language is dynamic and not stagnant. For example, the word brunch was coined a few years ago, means breakfast plus lunch. That we generally take near 11 o'clock or 11:30 in the morning. The word whom is replaced by who. In 16th century, the letter K was sounded in no, now it is silent. No, knife, knowledge, etc. So, we will discuss in details after doing the nature of language and definitions of language. We will now discuss structure of language. The structure of language all over the world shares common characteristic. They consist of the sounds that exist within a language, word meanings, word order, the rules for making the words in other words, the meaning of sentences and phrases, and the rules for practical communication with others. It involves grammar, phonemes, morphemes, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Let's see them in detail. Let's understand these components of structure of language in details with practical real life examples from Indian context. Grammar. Grammar is the system of rules governing the structure and use of a language. It includes phonemes, the basic sound of language. Morphology, the study of the formation of words. Rules for the order of words, known as syntax and pragmatics. Phonemes, the study of this is known as phonology. So, phonology is the study of basic sounds of a language. Phonemes are the basic units of sound in a language. A phoneme is the smallest basic unit of a language and it is the distinct sound in a language. For example, the A in the word car is a very different phoneme from the A in the word day. So, you can see car, the sound is A, and in the day it is A, even though it is the same letter of the alphabet, that is A. The word check has three phonemes: ch, CH, E and K, and the word itself. Interestingly, in English, K sound is denoted by the letter K in the word kite and by the letter C in the word camera. Different languages have different types of phonemes. For instance, in Japanese, the length of a vowel may change one word from another. The word toko, which means bed, if spoken with a long final O, would mean travel. Phonemes for different languages are also different, and one of the biggest problems for people who are trying to learn another language, and that too after a certain critical age, it is very difficult. And another language learning is the inability to both hear and pronounce the phonemes of that other language. I would like to give example from West Bengal, especially Santiniketan, Visva-Bharati University, where there are certain bhavnas, 8 or 9 bhavnas are there, and you can see the slide. It is written, if I read in English, it will go like this: Pali Siksha Bhavna. We can read it like this, whereas in Bengali it is Pali Sikha Bhavan. Also, while taking attendance of the students name like Anirban, Anirban. So I from North India generally say Anirban, whereas living here I can see the students correct me, no ma'am, it's not Anirban, it is Anirban. Also the name Supriya, while calling attendance I say Supriya, then the boy again stand and say no, it's not Supriya ma'am, the A will be like Supriyo. You can't, that A in phonemes is very important. It depends on the culture of that particular region and the language. So it is not always like English. In Bengali, the phoneme pronounced differently. So although infants are born with the ability to recognize all phonemes, after about 9 months, that ability has deteriorated, and the infant recognizes only the phonemes of the language to which infant is exposed. Now we will see morphemes. Morphology is another rule system directing how sounds are used to form the words. A morpheme is the basic unit of meaning in a language. These are the smallest units of meaning within a language. For instance, the word cats has 2 morphemes, cat and s, wherein cat is an animal and s adds to more number to it. That is, it means more than one cat. The word playing consists of 2 morphemes, play and ing. So morpheme is a word or a part of word that cannot be broken further into smaller. For example, you can't further break play. So if it is PL or AY separately, then there is no meaning of that PL and AY separately, and further you can't dissect ING too. So it should have some meaning. So morpheme is a word or a part of word that cannot be broken further into smaller parts with meaning to it. For instance, the word helper also has 2 morphemes, help and a. The word help exists on its own as a word and cannot be broken further down further into another meaningful unit. Another morpheme here is which means one who helps, helper. Although it's not a word on its own, but has a meaning and cannot be broken down any further. For example, in Bengali, if you say it's a home of Sham, so we say Shamer Badi. So that air, and that in English also it's helper, and that air has a meaning. Sham ka badi hai, Sham ka ghar hai, it's a home of Sham. So syntax. Syntax is the grammar of a language, putting words in a particular order, combines them to make acceptable and meaningful sentences. It is a system of rules for combining words and phrases to form grammatically correct sentences. Syntax is quite important, as just a simple mix-up can cause sentences to be completely misunderstood. Let's understand this by following examples. John kidnapped the boy has a different meaning from John, the kidnapped boy. Although all four words are the same, but where we have put the comma, where we paused, it depends, and it changed the meaning of the sentence. You did not stay, did you? Is a grammatical sentence which is acceptable, but you did not stay, did not you? Is unacceptable due to its ambiguity. Syntax also determines how and when we change words. For instance, by changing the word played from play, we can talk about the past. Just putting the ed. Now we will see semantics. Semantics denote the meaning of words and sentences. Words have semantic relationships in terms of how they can be used in a sentence. These are rules for determining the meaning of words and sentences. For example, the words boy and man may share a lot of features and characteristics, but differ semantically with regard to age, and thus are used accordingly in sentences. Boy, generally we use the word boy for school going students, and man for the adults. A sentence might be syntactically correct but semantically incorrect. The pillar started moving from place X to place B. This sentence is grammatically correct, but as per our semantic knowledge, it does not make sense, as we know that pillars are objects, they are non-living, they don't move from one place to another by their own. A sentence can have the same semantic meaning while having different syntax. Johnny hit the ball and the ball was hit by Johnny. Meanings are same. Now we will see pragmatics. Another set of rules that are important in language is pragmatics. It is how we use language in social situations and different contexts. The pragmatics of language has to do with practical aspects of communicating with others or the social niceties of language. For instance, children must learn the rules of turn taking in conversation. Who will speak first? I have to listen whenever others are talking. All these are child learns during a social interaction and social gatherings. It also involves the use of gestures to emphasize a point or indicate a need for more information, and the different ways in which one speaks to different people. Language is used for different purposes, such as request. Can you bring a glass of water for me? Information. Tomorrow there will be a class at 11 a.m. Please all of you assemble in assembly hall. To question. Where are you? What are you doing? Greetings. Hello, how are you? Congratulations for your day. And we speak differently in different situations and with different people. Some more examples. When we adults talk with infants generally, we use high pitched voice and many repeated phrases also. We use simpler words. On the other hand, when we talk to other adults of our age, it is different. Using a question to convey authority. Why is everyone standing here? Or is this what you call appropriate arrangement? We may speak politely with a teacher. Ma'am, may I leave the lecture 5 minutes early for my doctor's appointment? And when we adults talk to kids of 5 or 6 years or below that 4 years, we generally use high pitched voice. For example, we say, "Oh Rahul, where were you? What are you doing nowadays? How are your parents?" A bit of exaggeration and voice is a bit loud. Pragmatics is also applied when we share a joke with friends, tell a story to a child, or say a convincing lie to save our skin. This is demonstrative of our cultural understanding and thus adjusting our language, its expression according to the culture and context. Taking turns while communicating also comes under the rules of pragmatics. While growing up, children develop the ability to communicate using language, and for that they learn and develop all these 5 areas. What is the significance and importance of language? How it is very important for our life. Language is a fascinating phenomena that serves purposes beyond merely facilitating communication. Language, it has the innate capacity to mold our views, beliefs, and interpersonal interactions. We may communicate our ideas, share our feelings, and build our understanding of the world around us through language. Language is also a tool for empowering oneself and for self expression. People can communicate their ideas, feelings, and experiences via a variety of artistic mediums such as poetry, literature, or spoken word. Language has a significant impact on how we see ourselves, communicate with others, and negotiate the complex dynamics of our social fabric, whether in personal or societal circumstances. Language has a significant impact on how society functions. It generates social hierarchies, shapes interpersonal interactions, and may either support or obstruct successful communication. Now, having done the definitions of language, we have seen the structure of language, important components in the structure, grammar, semantics, syntactic, morphemes, phonemes. We have seen the importance and significance of language. We'll see now what are the functions of language. Language is a complex phenomena with multiple functions. Various linguists have tried to understand and elucidate the functions of language. Roman Jacobson defined 6 primary functions of language, according to which an effective act of verbal communication can be described. These functions are: the first function of language is the referential function. This function is primarily used to convey information, which was one of the primary reasons that language was discovered. Descriptions of situations, objects, and even mental states come under this. The expressive function. This function reports feelings or attitudes of the speaker or writer, and it is also meant to evoke feelings in the listener or reader, as during the time of India's independence, right? The way the poets written the poetries and slogans, This is just to evoke the feelings. This form of communication can also happen when we are alone. For example, if my mobile phone falls into a bucket of water, what do you think I am likely to say to myself? Probably use a swear word. We can also utter emotive utterances of a positive nature, especially when we cite something of great beauty. Wow! Is not that beautiful? Wonderful! What a scenic beauty it is! So, this is the expressive function. It is related to the emotions and feelings. The directive function. This function engages the addressee directly and is usually used for the purpose of causing or preventing an action, whether to cause an action, initiate an action, or we want to prevent that particular action from going on. It is therefore found in commands and requests and requires the use of vocatives and imperatives. For example, Adit, come here at once. Please shut the window. The fatigue function. This involves language for the sake of social interaction. This function can be observed in greetings, hi, how are you, and casual discussions about the weather. That is, it's so hot these days. The poetic function. This function focuses on the message of its own sake and is used in poetry as well as in slogans as well as in shero shairis. This is an aesthetic function of language. The metalingual function. This function is used to talk about language itself. However, it is very rare for any piece of discourse to serve only one function, unless it is a very specialized and restrictive piece of discourse. Most ordinary kinds of discourse are mixed. Finally, we can conclude this lecture as language communication and human needs are unquestionably linked. Human beings have various needs: individual, social, emotional, economic, political, and cultural. And it is to fulfill these that human beings need language. Even the youngest infant expresses its needs, which are primarily biological to begin with. I am giving here in this platform, this lecture, I am using maximum English language to communicate you all about this importance of language. So, how important this language is for research, for communication, for dissemination of information. You can further, we will discuss in details about the language during infancy till adolescence. Thank you. You can see these references for further studies. Happy learning.